for illumined life to be birthed into form. I am the truth. I am the light. Illumined, beloved divine.
So hello there everyone, and welcome to this video with me here today. I'm actually pretty exhausted, but I was choosing whether to record this or not, and I decided to do it anyway because I don't know how many times I'll be able to be by the white waters, this beautiful pristine place here, our microcosm in these Alps. And I actually have a bigger video package prepared because I've recently, in the past few weeks, gone through a major mission completion and a journeying, I don't know how else to call it. And these videos that I will be sharing after this one will be all about the descent of Elohim, the children of the Elohim, the birth of these sacred Elohim children, and the Illumined Union template. It will also be about the mission completion journey of the Illumined ones of our team, what we've established, what actually took place behind the scenes, and what took place in spirit all along, partially as well explaining the transgression, completion, and why things were a certain way, for those of you who are just interested, because these things do affect the entirety of this multiverse. And as many people, you know, they have different perspectives on our planet and what's happening. As you know, my Illumined group shares a very different perspective. I'm not saying it's the only one or it's the correct one, but it's a much bigger one. It involves, you know, so many lifelines and things understood from a higher perspective. When you look at a bigger picture and how Illumined beings work and operate, that you're actually able, when you're looking at it only from this mundane life or even this spiritual perspective. You know, nowadays you have so many people trying to explain what's happening, and they're calling it ascension, but in truth, a lot of what people are talking about is not ascension, is not Illumined ascension. At least I don't know any other ascension. For me, it's just the Illumined ascension. That's the only thing that truly exists. And I've been receiving all the information and completion what my team has been doing, but it took me a lot of effort for me to share this. So in this video today, I just want to go and do a little bit of the overview of what's happening right now in this moment with where we are. Those of you who are in this journey or interested in this journey as the initiate of the Illumined template, or, you know, the devotee to the Illumined Union path, because otherwise, I don't know why you are here. Maybe just out of curiosity, that's fine as well. But, you know, curiosity killed the cat. And it's like, I want to talk first about where we are now, some of the distortions and things we're just not looking into properly. Because as I always told you, there's so much confusion out there. And if you're not really going at it in the Illumined vision, you're not going to see what's really taking place. And it's a much bigger perspective, and it's much brighter and more beautiful than what we're being shown here. Although the false narrative or the false night narrative appears to be beautiful and glorifying, but it's not the truth. It's not happening, and it won't happen. It's a lie. And so in whatever kind of way you're viewing it, it's not going to become your reality, because there's no life force behind it that's backing up that scenario or that timeline. Okay, so the videos that I'll be talking about, and you know, at the end I also want to talk about the new creation cycle that we're actually creating, the Illumined beings, and those who will follow through, who will move along this union plan, and what is somehow the bigger perspective. Because I am in my usual yearly cycle, right? This month on the 15th, it's my birthday, and I'm actually guided to be offline until a bigger portion up until this date, because I'm receiving a lot and I'm integrating a lot on the human level, which means that I must not be too overwhelmed with all the things, you know, like video sessions, Patreon, all these things. So I will ask for your advanced patience on my journey, because I'm extremely exhausted, as you can see right now. You know, I came to my spot today and all I could do was just lie in my hammock and sleep and just rest, and I couldn't do much. The body is depleted because these missions are very, as beautiful as they are, they take up all the space and they take up all the energy, which means all the life force goes into their investment. So as beautiful as this unfolding has been in the past few weeks, it's also been excruciatingly painful for the body to go through, and I'm still recovering. So as you can see, my summer retreat wasn't as planned. I didn't actually get much of a retreat. I was 1 week when I went a little bit more into nature, but then afterwards was much work. And so as I've shared with you, there's someone who crossed my path. Miraculously, this never happened to me before, but we were both kind of extremely pushed into this work, to do this work together. She's my initiate, my disciple into this path, my only one so far that got this far and has really seen with the vision into what we are, who we are. And I'll talk all about this in these videos, the work we've been doing together behind the scenes, because it's been extremely honoring. I've been privileged to do so, and I've never actually worked physically with the other or another individual, because we as Illumined beings, we always work in teams, we always work in groups. But on earth, I was very much a solitary embodier of this path so far until this point. And I've never once witnessed anyone talking about this illumined path. Never once anyone witnessed the perspective that we're witnessing. And as you can now see on our planet, the mainstream narrative is that, you know, Gaia is ascending and we're ascending with the planet, right? But there's still distortions in that narrative, because the vision we're viewing as Illumined beings is coming through the currents of life force, right? You need to first understand who Illumined beings are, and I'll talk about this more in detail and depth in these coming videos. I don't know whether I'll do 2 or 3 parts, but there's a lot that came through, and I somehow want to inform all of you interested, but after my birthday and seeing what I'll receive is a more advanced contribution to this, I'll talk only about on Patreon on my page, Illumined Ascension. And so this brings me to this part where I tell you that Illumined beings, we don't fix, save, or rescue anyone, not a planet, not a group of people, not a race of beings. What Illumined beings do, we take up these embodied positions to witness and calculate where, you know, the current energy dynamic of where the life force is moving. And then what we do is we read those energies and then we take them up, and they're being deciphered and they're being read through our central suns, the positions of when we exist or where we exist as these light beings, intelligences. Through these, we go and move through these stellar gateways and all the way to these hub stations, which are known as central suns. And what we do from that perspective through our highest aspects, we basically have to go back to the origin point of where either something went wrong or went off or has become a fallen template. So you don't fix a planet that we call a prison planet, a planet that's very much experiencing a huge hijacking, manipulation, and enslavement up until this point, where the liberation of entire humanity is at stake, as you can see, very threatened. And people are expecting it to get better, and it's not. It's actually getting worse. And if you tell yourself stories, they will get better and someone will come along and, you know, something will shift. You're not reading the understanding of who you are as a being of creation, that you yourself have to move into your own timeline, your own choice and timeline, that a timeline will not be chosen for you. And whether you are passive and do not do anything, the timeline will be chosen for you, but it will not be an ascending timeline. And it does take an extreme amount of work to get this far, this close to this understanding. And so far, it's been only me and my initiate, as well as, I can just call her my friend as well up until this point, because we've shared experiences together as well. We just didn't do the work, but it's been hours and hours. We've been meeting up daily to do sessions to get to the root of things and connecting with our live family. And it's just been extremely intense, like every day, hours and hours, on the phone, which for me, it's, as you know, technology does deplete our life force, especially when you're a very sensitive being. And so we witnessed some beautiful things, but we are also witnessing the reality of the truth. And when you are coming into reality through reading the currents of life force, what you're going to begin to notice is that the planetary life force is, I'm not going to say waning and, in a way gradually decreasing, but it's being moved elsewhere. I could feel this for, the last year specifically, because at first I related it to my moving issue and the fact that I was no longer directly living in my portal space, and I've lost my, surroundings and where I lived and where I had all of, my elemental connection. I had a group of elementals I worked with there. I had my portal, of course it extended itself, and when I was helping to build this portal. But in a way, I thought first, maybe because I'm no longer anchored there, that's why I'm feeling these changes. But then now, being anchored again, I'm feeling, it just doesn't feel right. It just doesn't feel the same. Like, even if I would, let's say, be walking in a forest, I'm no longer feeling that sameness in, like upliftment in the way life force feels. Because every single thing is a living thing, right? It's a living organism. And now, what I've shared with you, that this timeline and the split is occurring, it means we're having two timelines being split specifically. I don't know, maybe there's going to be others, but these two specific timelines. And what we've talked about is that this V thing, right, is, right, this thing is actually imposing upon this descending timeline, right, in which you no longer have a free will. And it's not only about taking this on and saying, well, what the heck, I can manage. But it's also understanding that, as I've been told this in the winter months, that this is an irreversible change, because it goes directly into your DNA. And not only that, it hijacks your consciousness. So me and my friend, we were actually noticing and tuning into the life force of individuals, and how after taking that jab, they're becoming more and more lifeless. It almost feels like they're getting more and more robotic. It's like consciousness is leaving them. And people might say, well, not everyone would have health changes or risks. And certain, as you know, scientists are saying these people who've actually taken this will die after a few years. And, someone also recently told me, yes, I've taken it. And after taking it, they had such an egoic response, like, feeling in this almost like, yeah, whatever, I'm feeling actually better. And, maybe I can help alchemize it for the collective. That was the statement. And I don't wish to be judgmental here. Not at all. I never pass any judgments. But you have to understand something. This is something that the darkness does. The darkness treats humans as experiments, as test lab experiments. And we're going to talk about this more in the upcoming videos, what transgression was all about. And they don't care. But what they do care is getting information on how the bodies are responding to what they're developing, as in their silent and maybe very obvious technologies, because it all is technology. Technology is not only what we call computers, right? And so when they're testing these technologies, they're modifying them. So that's the reason why people need to get them, every once in a while, and more, It's because they're continuously testing on these people, and people without, all due respect, without conscious awareness, they're taking this on as if I have to in order to, travel or keep my job or whatever, right? People are being squeezed into this narrative of, you have to choose. And it will be more and more prominent, because you do have to choose, and you will have to choose. And in a way, it's kind of like God saying, who's with me? Who would risk anything to be free and liberated and trust my ascension plan? Well, others are like, no, I don't trust, and I don't trust myself. So what can I do? I'm a passive being. I have given my sovereignty away. And on the other hand, this other extremity of belief system, which is, yeah, you know what? I'm so full of light. I will just pass it on and I will alchemize it for the collective. This is actually extremely egoic to think about, that you think that while you're still holding a physical body, you are God, because you have to know physical bodies, human bodies are still very vulnerable. They are mortal bodies, and especially if you mess with human DNA. And you have to understand, I myself, with my undergoing of the most extreme transgression that ever took place on the, this existent surface of the earth, and I survived. But you have to know, like, all my light and all my intelligence and all my love was at specific times not enough. It wasn't like, oh, nothing happened to me. No, a lot happened to me. And this entire time sharing this with you, simultaneously, my human self was being very vulnerable. And as you know, not everyone who's in this, what I call the ascension field, talks about things so personally as I have, because I haven't just been sharing information with you. That was never what I was about. I was demonstrating this pathway. That's why I shared every single one of my experiences, not because I have the nagging nerve to talk about myself and that's kind of my desire. No, it's not really. I deserve and I enjoy my privacy, actually. But I'm being nudged because that was kind of like what this life of mine was for and what I was selected and chosen for, to talk about these things. And of course, I had to go personal in many ways. I had to demonstrate through an example. And when you only think about and talk about things in theory, you're not really applying yourself. You're not really embodying this and these principles. So the one that does not embody can very easily be tricked and deceived into a specific narrative that they somehow become a part of and start believing in, and sometimes even defending very vehemently. So you have these extremes of these reactions, right, to this thing, right? When people are being either very just without any consciousness, just taking it in, people who are being very egoic, or people who are just knowing what's happening, but they're in fear and taking it anyway. But there is, because of that, a split taking place. And I'm no one to talk about what will happen to every one of these groups or specific individuals. But what I do know is it is, from a higher perspective, a call of division, that an agent of serving the plan of ascension had to be chosen. And from a perspective of darkness, it looks pretty harsh and pretty dark, right? You have given away your free will and literally someone hijacking your body that way. And you're thinking you're getting something good and beneficial when everyone knows who've done the research that this is not how you approach that kind of situation, which is not even deadly, It is a choice. And even the path of walking the Illumined way and being an Illumined disciple is a choice. No one will choose it for you but yourself. And out of fear, many people have not chosen it. And out of ignorance, most people have not been listening to the messages that me and my group have been paving forth for all these years. And sometimes people might panic. And even my disciple, she was saying, but what if people don't get across this information soon enough? What will happen to them? And in truth, I don't know. I can't control people and their will. I can't control whether someone, finds this information or not. But what I do know is that God works in mysterious ways, and the essence of the eternal spirit of life knows exactly who to reach, how to reach them, and when to reach them. And these people, these souls, these soul individuals who are meant to be reached were already reached years ago. Whether or not they've done the work, I don't know. I only know what my Lumen group has been bringing forth for an extended or overextended amount of time. And since the transgression timeline, which was, excavated from my own mining the body awareness, because I became aware of it at that point in reality of my embodiment, my physical body avatar, it was brought to the surface. And since then, I started receiving more accurate messages of what's really going on. Instead of, many people are still in what we call the lab. They don't know. It's a very hidden experiment. It takes place on the levels of your body or embodiment that you're not physically aware of. And that's why it's such a silent threat. And what's happening to people physically with this experimentation, right, taking place with the V, it's almost like it's a physical aspect of what transgression of these electrical discharges and these lab experimentations taking place on more advanced beings. It's like an analogy of the entirety of sinning against the nature of God, which is life force. It's life. It's the very essence of life. So it's the sin against life. And you can talk about ascension all you want, but the moment you sin against your own body, you go against your very body that's organic. Even with foods, the way you live your life, the way you yourself are choosing to be more and more zombie-like, you don't need a V to become like that. Some people are becoming like that just because of extreme pressures of our earth, which is, like I've explained, 3D is getting much more 3D than before. And we're being squeezed and pressured and oppressed in order to accept this as a reality. People are going like, well, that's all I know. I've been on earth for as far as I know. And yes, it is perhaps more difficult for these souls who've been with the evolutionary cycles of earth for such a long time. But it's easy for us as lumen light beings to tell off when something is really off. Because you read the impulses of life force and they're becoming more and more distorted. The entire nature is becoming more lifeless and depleted. But it's not such a black scenario. There is a realm being created, and I will talk about this in the videos. So I do advise you to take up that chance to watch these videos. I don't know whether it'll be 2 or 3, but you have to watch all of them. And you have to go back and watch my 3 of Life video as well, because these videos are all together, you know, they're coming in union. They're all interdependent in that regard. So they carry information that I don't, you know, repeat in individual videos. But you have to be aware, this is that crucial moment when a lot of us are feeling everything is changing and has changed. Even the air we breathe, it's no longer the same air. The excitement for this life is waning in so many people. And we're not going to talk about the souls who are in the new age, in this false light, and they're all materialistic, and they're all selling their magic wands and lotions and potions or whatever the case be here. And they're making lots of money and profit off of that, because we know what they serve, actually, you know, and people who prosper in that way, and they seem to be prosperous, and they're teaching others, look, this is how you can prosper yourself. They're teaching falsehood. That's why there's always a question, but why are lumen beings always suffering on the planet? Because we don't follow the status quo, because we are not just rebels. We're individuals. We come here as these, you know, acupuncture points into the planetary sphere of existence to change the spin of what has been really distorted. And this is what the Illumined beings do, and it's all governed and chosen and decided through the Illumined High Council of Light. And that's why sometimes difficult agreements are taken, such as the Transgression Project. You know, many things that Aurea through me has been capable of doing, and she was doing it blindfold, which is what I'll also share in the next videos. These are very difficult missions and tasks. They're very responsible, and they can only be performed by very advanced, knowledgeable beings who know how to do this. And even themselves, they're sacrificing a lot when they come to the planetary sphere. And in a way, you know, when they do this work, they don't do it, you know, like being on the spotlight. They're doing it behind the scenes. We were doing it this whole time behind the scenes, which means people don't know what's happening. So when I'm talking to you like now in my physical human body is just Polona Aurea, you might think, well, there's just this girl talking blah blah, you know, she's been doing these videos 10 years. No, I've developed. I'm not the same person I was 10 years ago. 10 years ago in 2011, I actually received first the beloved seed and then my lumen seed into my body. That was the year timeline when it was getting activated. But simultaneously, as I first remember, in 2010, I was also being transgressed. I had my first memory of being in that lab and experimented on through those very harsh and alien-like frequencies that were feeling like a very distorted, low-frequency sound. Scary sound. And I've heard that sound for all those years in different moderation periods, right? And so you have to be aware all these things exist, and reality is not just rainbow and magical, you know, and when you wake up to the reality, the harsh nature of reality, sometimes, yes, it will feel like you almost don't want to be alive. But there are aspects of life that we're waking up that perhaps they're no longer found here on this earth. But you have to be aware, life is not just this earth, and earth is not the only center of attention and focus as it's tried to be showcased in our new age. Why? Because the darkness wants people, it wants as many souls as possible to keep on spinning around their narrative. They want as far as many, you know, they want the sound, the call for that, the clarion call to go far and wide, to reach as many as possible. And that's what they've created the New Age movement. Basically hijacked the original New Age movement, which was, you know, I now call this New Age the false New Age, but there was a true New Age, you know, back in the 70s, 80s, when all of the awakening was starting to happen, until they put a lid cover over it and just basically suppressed it completely. And so, in a way, this false narrative has been deeply propagated, and people have been sold this spiritual or spiritualistic reality that's not even real. There's zero life force behind it, you know. There's online information just about everything. I was reminded of Ascension Library just recently, you know, through my friend. I'm like, oh yeah, I never actually looked at that. And she was telling me how these things written there feel lifeless. But the problem with people is that they never ask themselves, where is the information? Not just where is it coming from, but how does it feel? When I'm tuning into something, there's like something that put that there or online or wherever had an impulse. And you're only truly awakened when you have to be awakened to the illumined light, like this light of the sun right now that's just about to set slowly. That's when you're going to feel life through the impulses of life force. And when you feel lifeless, depressed, you know, basically you're covering up your feelings. You're drowning your feelings, and even in substances like, you know, overdoing with food and alcohol or whatever. something's wrong, something's off. You can no longer access the life force of God, this pure joy and divinity, which is not the same as the collective experience I'm now talking about, that something's changing on the whole sphere of the earth. And it's because, yes, of all the hijacking, distortion, and disruption of the proper spin, we no longer spin in the proper, let's say, orbit in how this planetary station was originally designed through the immaculate design. Because each station, each planetary station of life is given an immaculate spin, an immaculate design, which is a spiral. But what we have now is just lines and circles, and we're going around in them. So what illumined beings do, we basically uncover these distortions, and we charge for the life force of God, the highest aspect of all life, and we fuse it together with our consciousness. So we illuminate through it, and we create spin-offs of these vibrational patterns of light, and we create these new patterns, which means eventually they become realms. So let's say I come to this planet Earth, and I'm picking upon information of everything, this plant life, mineral kingdoms, different humans, different souls, like, you know, that we're kind of like needing to merge our consciousness with, and we're taking that information up where it's being placed, you know, put through that our vortices, because we have our portals, and we put that information through the pulsar, right? I talked about the pulsar. We discharge this illumined light intelligence, and that's being received by our group family members that are not incarnate, they're not physical, and they're using these to calculate, and they're using it to, I don't know, build new modules. And when they do that, they need to figure out a new way to move life force and weave it through. That's what we do. That's basically what I do when I'm not here, you know, in this human life, which is basically my first and only lifetime ever. Because consciousness like this was never, you know, it was never physical before. So recently I was told that me, as the first one of the many that are a few actually, it's like I was shown this story. I was shown it like a divine creator narrative. It's like, you know, each creation cycle has a narrative, and then the narrative becomes stagnant and repetitive. So Source sends a new aspect of itself. So we have to see ourselves as aspects too, not just individuals. And in my case, this being, as Polona, this human body was received for the first time ever a consciousness aspect of Source that was never incarnated before, like ever. And that's what I received as never having a physical human life before. And that consciousness then first needed to be fully understood and integrated through me, which I've done through those 7 years of portal living and portal creation. I've gotten all about what it means for me to be not just a creation angel, but a creation pillar, which is one of the chosen within these beings who are actually here to provide a very specific creatrix. And I'll talk about this probably in the last video, which will be about, you know, our new creation cycle. So it was so much so knowledge that I had to somehow understand, and I didn't even fully comprehend it until this last portion of the information coming through about our mission and who we are and what actually took place. So this will be in the videos. But just for now, just for today, I want to discuss how we can be in this, I'm going to say this last few final stages of the journey, because my team, my family is calling this the preparation for ascension. And I will discuss all of that later in the videos. And ascension is not what people perceive like it's a vertical path when you're going up, up, up. No, it's an integration of what God says, the illumined seed and the human seed will be one. And that's the illumined union journey. And not everyone will get it. Not at all. I'm not saying they will. But what I'm feeling is the seed needed to be planted through my life, through this human life. And now the seed is available. And it's because it's actually not just been deciphered, but it's also been embodied. And I become the first of these who carried the seed forward. And now this can be spread, you know, into many. And again, this is something I'll talk about probably in the last video. But here I just want to touch base upon how we can be in this moment of knowing that the new dawn is approaching and it's inevitable. And that probably we don't have life that's still physical that's in front of us. It's not the same life that we were used to or still maybe used to or clinging on to. Like, because there's a lot of souls that are still clinging on to their earthly reality as it is right now, status quo. And they're actually missing. They're missing their free ticket. They're missing their free ride into the ascension timeline, which is really a waste. But those of us who are here in conscious selfless service, we have to also let these beings go, no matter how much we love them, however much we love them. Because sometimes this will feel like for our own inner aspect, which is our inner human child, very depleting if we want to like save these people, or like, oh, but I need them to go with me or to go with us, and they need to go, and or they need to be saved. They can't clash into this, which is just basically going to collapse within itself. Because if you're looking through, or just, I'm not really reading the news, but I'm feeling the energies. I'm feeling it's getting more complex. And it's like light makes a move, dark makes a move, again. And this is ongoing. You have to know there's no breaking point. Eventually there will be. But for those of you who want to ascend, you have to get off that treadmill. You have to get off that story. You have to get off of that hope. Things, they're going to get better. They're going to change. They're going to get better. You have to get off of false hope. That's the first thing you have to do. Then you have to remember who you truly are. Not just like, oh, I'm the soul having a physical human experience. No. I'll share in the videos what it means to truly wake up to your creation aspect, your illumined aspect. Not everyone is a lumen being yet, but we each being has a seed, and everyone can become. Okay? So that's the next thing. And third is you have to walk this, then you have to live it. It's not a given. Like my entire life was one giant training ground, right? It was just one mission. And my human self, of course, it got depleted, it got tired, always living just the mission, for the mission. But as I'll share in the videos, the mission is, that part is actually complete. It will take a while until our physical selves get it. But those humans who are, let's say, first-time ascenders, who will go this path, who have chosen it, who are doing the work, who have chosen discipleship path consciously and willingly and with grace, and they want it. It's exhilarating for them. They will be moving to this path more and more, but they will also have to unplug for anything that still weighs or holds them down. Like, let's say an expectation that your partner would shift, or your expectation that someone you're very fond of would get it, or like all these hopes. Like the only hope right now that we need is, first of all, understand that we're not here, we're ascending the planet. A planet is its own sovereign deity. You have to understand that once you really, really understand creation from an illumined perspective, you will drop all these falsehoods, these conceptions or convictions that the dark narratives have actually put in as an inception into the timelines of ascension, so humans couldn't ascend. They've been telling them, you have to stay here and save the planet until every last thing is solved. Well, let me tell you, you're going to be here for, what's the cycle? 26,000, I don't know how many years, right? It's a lot. And it will be the next one. But there's a new realm. There's a new reality for those who are stepping out of this one, this last one. Because we're the last vestiges of this, this old cycle. It's like they're already bleeding through. And here's where the action is taken and needed on the behalf of, everyone who wants to literally ascend. And you can't go on and on the old way anymore. You just can't. Because it will get harder and harder and more difficult. And you might ask yourself, but what do? I don't know how. Well, that's what we're here for. How many people and how often do they actually come to my assistance? Not many. But it's always been there. It's been there for years. And especially now, and after transgression, I've actually elevated myself to a point of consciousness that I've never existed in before. It's like clarity. My vision is back. I'm seeing things. I'm getting vision. And when working with this special individual, and when we were doing the sessions at that point, when I was still needing to shift in my human body, she was my eyes and she was my ears. And I could see, right? And then her as this prophet, this illumined visionary, quantum visionary, she created dreamscapes, and I picked him up. And I, as a knower, as an illumined knower, I knew exactly what's happening. And I was like instantly beginning to channel information and complete knowing. This is what's happening. This is what we're doing. Oh, we're going there. Oh, this. It was like constant, but it was a lot of work. And I will share this in the following videos, hopefully as soon as I can. But the Patreon content will come after the 15th. I hope you can understand that part. Okay? I might do an Illumined Union guidance, as I always do, a reading. But then more will come after. This was just like an unexpected detour, but it was meant to happen like this all along. And we were missing this special key ingredient in the form of that person coming in. And I think I understand now when she first had her Illumined awakening through Aurea and the family. Aurea came to her and she was like, oh, we're just going to get it done all at once. And she saw Aurea doing all of the work on her at once. She's like, she's ready. We're just going to do all of it. Because it was so vitally important for us to finish this, because we needed her as well to finish this last part, this last segment of this part, which was the calculation of these distortions and then doing the renewal. And we have gotten the revival. And I will talk about in these videos about the restoration of the original Immaculate template, the true Elohim template. There was a reversal needed to be done because there's this huge distortion at the story of creation level, and I'll talk about this as well. Just as far as you know that you have to start noticing reality through how you feel in your body. And not necessarily every single thing, an impulse, you would ascribe to, well, I'm just having an off day or a bad day. It's not always of you. Yes, if you've been in this constant situation that's repetitive, that's you're cycled in circumstances you just cannot stand, but you're kind of like bearing with them, you're kind of like just wearing them as a burden because you have no other option, that's what you believe, then it is mostly, yes, coming from you. But there's a portion that's also coming from this realm that is experiencing this huge, heavy splitting. And it's almost like we're needing to be squeezed, so that, you know, when you're squeezed, you make a choice. Before, you're like, when your life is easy and flow and you have all you need, right? Souls don't make much progress. They get lazy very often, most often, very quickly. And now we're being squeezed, and it's like it's time. Just make a clarion call and make that choice. And that's why we're also so pushed to do and urged to do this mission session, journeying in this last few weeks with such speed and eloquence, actually. I mean, I can't believe the things we're just getting them and see. We were literally seeing the same things and witnessing the same things. I never had an experience of working together in that kind of harmonious way together with someone. Because usually there's people who use your life force to get ahead, or, you know, like you're of assistance. But this was like so complementary. Different skills, but so complementary that it really took my breath away at times, and it was really beautiful, but yeah, quite exhausting. So it will take time for me to kind of try to summarize it all, to put it in a format that I can share it, because obviously I cannot share all the details because some are just for us, those who really are in those groups and who do understand. But I feel I need to present it because it is miraculous what's actually taking place. Because it is a legacy of illumined light beings and people who are open and awake to knowing. They're eager, they're hungry to have that knowledge return. They want to know. They want to know, because you have to know. Darkness has been hijacking this true primordial Elohim divine connection as who our true ancestral family is. And they've been masking it and presenting these ETs and these offspring, you know, spin-offs their own way. These distortions, they've been presenting these as our, you know, ancestors, you know, all these beings like Anunnaki and, you know, reptilian groups, these groups, Pleiadian, Sirius, all these groups. But let me tell you, there's a difference between what we call Syrian, Pleiadian, Lyre, you know, all these things. They're experiences. They're not the same as truths. The only truth is the truth of spirit and how it moves into life. And through divine law and understanding the principles of life and creation, it integrates more and more of that God self, and therefore becoming more godly in its existence, in its own individual existence, but also learning to co-create with the coexistence of all the other fellow beings, right? Family. But it's like these fallen beings have been presenting these basically experiences as, you know, ancestral lineages and what we need to focus on. So people have been focusing way too much. Oh, what was I in a past life? What was I here as this starseed system? It really doesn't matter anymore, my beloveds, because if you want to ascend and you want to move within and be moved through the golden gate, this archway of illumined golden light, the golden gate of ascension, my team is calling it, then you really have to know yourself as beyond these. First, as beyond what you perceive your human lives to be, and then beyond what you can think yourself to be, in order to really get to know who you are. Because when you fully are who you are, it's like your whole world will change. And I can tell you through the exact words of my companion, right? She literally saw, and she was literally rebirthed within, you know, just a little over 1 week. It was that fast, because she said, wow, Aurea works fast. I'm like, yeah, we do. It is what it is. I say it always. It's been really fast, but it's because she's been open and ready. And for some people, it might take much, much longer. But when you get, they always say we only need one. When we start with one. Then it will spread out to a few and then to many. That's how the Illumined protocol is. So we always plant one seed. In this life, that was me. I was the chosen one for this. And I carried the true immaculate Elohim seed. But, as I'm going to share, it was very hijacked, or tried to be hijacked and hidden still through transgression via these dark regressive types. Because these are the stubborn ones. They don't want life to overextend itself in this beautiful way that's naturally harmonious and thriving for all life and enriching for all. That's just for those few who actually work on getting power. You still have now all these people working on more the protocol of power than illumined understanding. Right? Information versus illumined understanding. I've never been here in these videos about information or giving you information. Everything I've shared was through my own experience, but it was to show you that one such a being, when you fully awaken to who you are as an illumined self, the access to God and the consciousness of everything, all the knowing can be returned to you instantaneously when you activate that aspect of you, and then you can integrate it through your body. The body is like a star map for each and every one individual. That's why our bodies, through all these transgression, different layers and levels, have been abused and hijacked. Every single being living on earth has, or is still experiencing, perhaps, yes, or like in continuation, a form of regressive type of transgression, whether here or there. It's all distortion. Even just going to a job that's archonic, which means it's, again, I've forgotten the term, corporate, right? Even that, it will slowly wane and wane how much of your soul can come into your own creatrix prism of life. Eventually, none comes through, and you become very hollow. And many beings, as I've shared before, they've become very hollow. They're just like lifeless. And coming, let's say they come and they're almost like doing all these repetitive things every day, every week. It's all just encircled. They have so much little left that they don't even know how to create anymore. But creation angels, we are creator beings. We need to create. That's what we do. We create with light intelligence. That's why most of the things you never see, you see only the verbs, the words that get across to you, and you think, oh, there's this knowledge being shared. No, there's a whole pack of training and integration, and so much so that's coming through, and the spirit working with life force. Then what gets across here is filtered. It's just such a tiny percent or amount of what actually took place. And I'm needing for you to be very aware of that, because otherwise, if you just look at the imaging or the surfacing, you're going to miss the point. You have to learn to feel the essence, and I've been teaching that for years, and I'm not sure how many people actually got this, and how many people actually read the impulses of life. Very few. Most just take life as it's shown to them, as it's demonstrated from the outside, like accept this is life in this realm. No! You make your own realm. You make your own story, who you are, what your creation is, and what it will be, and what you want to become. That's why people are getting like, oh, what's this person talking about? I know exactly where I'm headed because I know my Illumined counterparts and all the aspects of what we're doing. I know exactly where we're headed. I don't know all the details and how, but I know exactly. I have the vision, piercing vision of where we're actually moving this plan of union and ascension. And I know that Aurea will be the one opening the gates, Aurea and Aureon, and, those beings already will move through. Because the reason why they're going to be able to access that is not because they have more information. They've been informed. They've been picking up all these channelings online, whatever. No. It's because they've learned how to follow the true illumined light impulses. They can learn to read what true golden illumined light is like. And they will follow that cosmic Christ light. They will go with it. And those who've been picking up all these falsehood symbols, that's where they will go. Just more falsehood, more encircled. And perhaps now it's time for those few who still feel agitated about all this I've been sharing in the last few weeks or months, maybe get help. Just make that one first step. We talked about it yesterday with my friend. How, for some people who just can't make that shift, they're always encircled in sameness. And they're getting very depressed about it. And she told me, these people, all they would actually need is to make one first step. Even if it means going to a counseling or a psychic or, I don't know, to a therapist, whatever, just doing something, like one thing that's crucially different in that moment to break through the encoding that you're living every day repetitive. One thing. And sometimes that one thing will be enough to shift someone, their personality, so that their soul can shake them up and say, what the heck? We're waiting for you. What are you thinking? What are you doing? You're standing still. You're in stagnation mode. Wake up. This is no longer funny. It's not a joke. I mean, we do have to see it, of course, with the eyes of innocence. But it's not funny in a way that, yeah, whatever, I can just throw it away. Everyone who's ever received divine information, like people who've been watching my videos, and then threw it away like it's a piece of rubbish, they did themselves, not only themselves, but many people who could then benefit from them waking up, a disservice. Okay? Because God is plentiful. God is infinite life and life force intelligence. And when you waste it, when you brush it off, and you're egoic and in pride, and sometimes people have even someone standing right there in front of them, like offering their hands, and they're like, nope. That's what you will say at the end of the journey. Nope, I'm going there. And that's what you will choose. So I don't want to be too feisty today with my words. But I want to be honest and truthful, because sometimes you need to poke for people to actually get it, like, oh, it's not a joke. You need to poke so people know it's not a joke. It rhymes, but still. I know sometimes I laugh too little in my videos. I laugh a lot in my life, in my own way, in my human way. But when I do these videos, yeah, it does seem to get across like that I have a more serious nature to my, character. It's not the truth, though. Again, remember, you're only seeing one aspect, the surface. But it's not about what I am or, like how I am. It's more like what I represent. That there's this illumined light intelligence here has been speaking to so many of you for years and years. And so few have actually picked up that jewel and placed them within and connected it with their own templating. And said yes. Most have been just curious, like, yeah, whatever, maybe, maybe not. They haven't been loyal and trusting enough. And some have been really ridiculing, and that's another layer and story. I don't want to go into that. So as you can see, our sun is slowly ready to set. I'm getting ready as well to finish the video, and I will try to summarize the greatness and the legacy and the story of creation that we've received together in those sessions. Pass it on to all those of you who are interested. Don't take it lightly. But take it with joy in your hearts, because in order for us to complete this mission, it is in a way, we need to see it as a celebration. I'm not saying it's over yet. We have one final passageway, what they call preparation for ascension. I'll talk about that as well, because actually that's the part I'm getting thrilled about the most. Because not a lot of people feel what I feel, but I'm always ahead of time, because I'm so close to the nature of illumined beings and the reality of God. Reading those currents of life force that they're sending me. And they've been sending me these impulses for the longer, over a year now, that this reality is being moved. It's being shifted. And you will have to shift along with it or not. It won't be here. It won't be like now. It won't be what you're used to so far. So people who are still attached to their physical nature and possessions and people and relationships, they're going to really struggle with this. So that's the first step of the many. And, it's easy when you really get it, but for some it's really hard. It really depends. But every single step, even if it's just one small step, it's a step in the right direction, okay? So no small deed will go unnoticed, and it's not like someone's watching and judging you. It's all for you. It's you. Whether you want to be also a free, chosen God, sovereign being or not. Or you want to continue being recycled in where you've already been. That was my journey. That was my legacy. I never meant to speak about spiritual nonsense that's not even spiritual. I came here with a very specific task, and it's to call these individuals who are ready to ascend in this lifetime. And the rest really doesn't concern me, and it's none of my business, and it's not for me to judge. I know there's many different realities and timelines, but they're not my timelines. They're not the illumined timeline. So whatever divine will may be with that, it's not up for me to, I don't even want to go there. It's not for me to do research there. So find a space in your heart to just connect. Each time I share something, go deeper. Don't just take it and, what's the next thing she's going to talk about? No, no, that's not the right way. You know it. Deep in your heart, you know it. Everyone does. Those of you who haven't been contemplating and doing the deepening work, you're always still doing the same. This life of ascension is not about shuffling cards and doing magic tricks. Not anymore, Sometimes, yes, it does feed the inner child, and that's still a part of what makes us so beautifully human. But there will be more, and there can be more. And you can only access that level of not information, but divine light intelligence when you deepen your consciousness space or state of being, okay? And at least try to open your heart for what I'm sharing. For some, it might feel too complex, but it's actually very simple. It's very simple, right? Just follow the life that is real, that is organic, that's full of God power, full of God consciousness. And I know it's difficult because God consciousness was so artificially recreated in so many ways and forms that it's, for people who are less aware, it's beginning to get very difficult to decipher between what's real and what's not. Yep. Even what we call AI has advanced a lot, We're being told a narrative of AI, but it's actually a much more intelligent thing that we are being shown, through the media or whatever. So be aware, because a lot of these things are silent and they affect your consciousness when you're not even aware of it. When you're doing your mundane things, when you're asleep, sleeping, astral realm, huge space of hijacking. Like everything we're doing, we need to be beginning to do more and more consciously. That's the space of invitation. That's something of a reason that I wanted to do this video first before I share all the content, because it cannot be taken lightly. So I had a choice whether to just dig into those videos or do this one first. And I think I've chosen wisely, as I always do, as my beautiful spirit of Aurea guides me to do so each and every time, with my full heart focus to the path of illumination and golden ascension. Take a deep breath and prepare yourself. I hope you will be with me in these videos to follow, and afterwards I will retire a bit for a while. I don't know whether that is still will be my calling. It might be something different, because this part is complete and we're gonna see what happens next. I really don't know, but I do invite those of you who are willing to get help or assistance, contact me. I do have sessions available, as you know, and I feel like in the near future we could also do some interchangeable things, and when my friend companion is also open up to, really using her gift in this way as well, I can also, when you're working with me, refer you to, working with her, and, we're going to see. I don't know. I'm just open at this point. All I know is that I've never witnessed something as beautiful as now unfolding, and it was like, yes, something I've been really waiting for, something I knew it has to happen, or the next step can be taken, and it did happen. So knowing what you know within and trusting God to bring that for the higher calling and for a bigger mission plan, for the divine plan, it will always unfold. So thank you for being present with me here today, as always, with so much love, wisdom, power. And I will add today the word courage, because that's what most humans right now very deeply need. I'm not going to spank you all. I'm just going to tell you courage, the word courage. So take good care of yourselves. And yes, the summer might be ending, but fall can also be very beautiful if we allow it to be. It's a space of transition, and it's where I am right now, maybe where many of you are also as well. So I will see you in the follow-up videos. They will be grandiose, and I won't say much more. And until we meet again, as always, with love, wisdom, and power, and I love you. I'll see you.